Hello, and welcome to Book Reviews Kill, a podcast about fantasy, sci-fi, and horror novels. I'm Evan.
And I'm Chad.
And you're joining us today for our recap and discussion of Abaddon's Gate, Book 3 in the Expanse by James S.A. Corey. So I'm just going to say right off the bat here, I loved the characters in this book. Apart from the crew of the Rocinante, which is always great, we had Melba, we had Bull, we had Anna, who were all great points of view, along with Holden, while we're watching all this stuff really start to escalate here. Even the non-point of view characters like Ashford and Pa and Tilly
Sam.
were all so distinct and perfectly put together for the roles that they had. It was excellent.
Like, it's kind of like the Dark Tower. Each one's so unique that I can't be like, this one's my favorite over that one. But this one, for enjoyment and keeping my focus and attention, definitely was ranked highest among the three. Like, I was in it, actively engaged the entire book. I read the second half in one sitting.
I think I liked Caliban's War just a little bit more, just a skosh more than this one, solely because I loved Eva Sarala and Bobby so much. Those two characters are amazing. And so, I mean, I liked Melba a lot. I liked Anna a lot. I liked Bull quite a bit. They were all great. Melba's redemption arc is fantastic. Bull was a little boring at first. I mean, I feel like the first third of this book, I'm noticing a little bit of a trend with these books. Okay. And we're only, I'm into the fourth one now. We're not going to talk about the fourth one on this episode, but I noticed that the first 150, 200 pages, there can be action. The action is there. The movement is there. But a lot of it, at least the first 100 pages, is just getting introduced to these characters. And I think that, Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank, James S.A. Corey, they do a really good job with having something cool happen at pretty much the end of every chapter. I think that's something that Josiah Bancroft said when we interviewed him. He said that that's something that he had always tried to do, is every chapter have something cool happen, have some kind of new development happen, which can be really difficult when you have 50, 60 chapters in a book to do that every time. But James S.A. Corey does a very good job at that. But yeah, I've noticed that it takes me a little while to warm up to these characters, and they've been mostly different in every one of these books. But so Caliban's War, I mean, going into this book, having this whole new cast, I was like, oh, I want Eva Sarala and Bobby back.
I know. I feel like these books kind of progress like a game of Jenga. It's very boring for the first 10 minutes or so. And then all of a sudden, every move is this tearing, the whole thing might collapse.
Yeah, that's a really good way of saying that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I want to talk more about the decisions that they made to kind of leave some of those characters behind, but we're going to get way deeper than we should before we hit the recap. So let's roll out that recap.
Let's do the recap right now. The book begins with a young belter named Neo slingshotting his ship, the Ique, through the mysterious ring that has formed in Uranus's orbit. Once through, the Ique decelerates at 99 Gs, and Neo's body is splattered inside the ship. A live feed from the Ique broadcasts the events. While the Rocinante crew enjoys the fruits of their prosperous year, Detective Miller continues to visit Holden, though the meaning behind Miller's words remains a mystery. Miller asks Holden for help and says, "They know I find things. They know you help me." Holden has confided in Naomi about these visits, but not the rest of his crew. We then meet Bull, a former UN Marine, now a member of the OPA and XO on the Behemoth, the largest weapons ship in the Sol system, formerly known as the Nauvoo, but commandeered by Fred Johnson during the Eros incident. Just before launch, Bull is demoted to Chief Security Officer as Captain Ashford doesn't want a former Earther as second in command of the OPA's flagship. If the Nauvoo fires its railgun, the ship will be torn apart. Many of its parts were built to spin, since the ship would have thrust gravity only at the start and end of its journey. Bull can't get the budget from the XO, Michio Pa, to fix any of the problems. Samara Rosenberg, or Sam, from Tycho, is the chief engineer. Clarissa Mao, daughter of Jules Pierre Mao, gets a new identity as Melba Co., and will soon be shipping out on the Saraceer, a civilian maintenance ship bound for the Ring. The man selling her this new identity tries to shake her down, and she kills him and his guards. As revenge for destroying her family, she plans to publicly humiliate and discredit James Holden before killing him. We then meet European pastor Anushka Volovodov, who has been chosen for the Secretary General's advisory group for the civilian trip to the ring. She boards the UNN Thomas Prince, a Xerxes-class battleship. Back on Ceres, and wary of the mysterious ring, Holden takes a job as far away from the structure as possible, but the employer backs out at the last minute when Holden is served a summons from Mars. They want the Rossi back, and it's impounded at the Ceres dock. Monica Stewart from the UN Public Broadcasting Network wants to do a story on the ring and asks Holden to take her and her team there. Under the Freedom of Journalism Act, she has a reasonable use of any hired materials and personnel. Holden believes Miller might be behind all of this. Melba commands a team of 4 technicians on the Saraceer, but she's doing a poor job of faking it. She plants a bomb on a ship called the Sueng-un and intends to create a fake video of Holden saying he's claiming control of the ring on behalf of the OPA. She confides in Ren, a member of her team, that she's in over her head with the engineering job she's been assigned, and he says he'll help her out. Bull discovers that the Behemoth crew have been showing up to work high, and as a show of force, throws a drug dealer out an airlock. Captain Ashford relieves him of duty, but Bull explains that on a military vessel, anyone endangering the ship is to be executed. Ashford is visibly upset and tells him never to do it again. Miller keeps telling Holden to check his doors and corners and to clear the room, or he's going to wind up dead. Holden's not so sure he's just speaking gibberish anymore. Data shows that the Iquay is still moving in a straight line at a constant velocity of 600 miles per second on the ring's other side. Ren confronts Melba after he gets air filter data from the Sueng-un, indicating there might be a bomb aboard. She utilizes her strengthening implants, breaks his neck, then seals his corpse in a storage locker in her room. Anna starts holding prayer meetings on the Prince, as many of the crew are distraught about the ring. She sees a young woman that looks like she needs help. It's Melba, and she's losing her focus, filled with remorse after killing Ren. She thinks Anna somehow knows what she did, and screams at her before leaving the room. Melba heads back to the Saraceer and activates remote software on the Rossi, which issues a trigger code to blow up the Sueng-un, and falsely announces Holden's responsibility and false demands. The Rossi then powers up its weapons and targeting systems without instruction from the crew. On the Behemoth, probes sent into the wormhole have determined there are a number of large objects, possibly ships, on the other side. XO Pa revokes Sam's access privileges for making repairs Bull told her to do. Pa knows Bull did this, but is politicking to turn Bull's allies against him. Bull gets the transmission from Holden demanding that the information and resources about the ring remain free to all people and that he'll kill anyone who tries to stop him. Bull and Pa tell Ashford to shoot down the Rocinante so Earth doesn't think the OPA is on Holden's side. Ashford reluctantly fires a torpedo, but this causes the Behemoth to lose power. The XO lets Sam out of confinement to fix the ship. Holden realizes the lawsuit and the camera crew were a setup for this exact moment. With the Behemoth's torpedo speeding toward the ship and Naomi's countermeasures all offline, they have no choice but to take the Rocinante into the ring. Ashford wants to follow the Rossi through the ring. Mars vows to destroy them if they even get close to the ring. Bull suggests to Pa that they overthrow the captain, but she insists they follow the chain of command. Hector, or Hank Cortez, a spiritual advisor to the UN Secretary General, asks Anna to sign a petition to take the prince into the ring. She immediately agrees, seeing it as a way to reunite the fleets and stave off war. Melba is extremely upset that Holden survived her sabotage. When the Saraceer's employers order a number of crew to be dispatched to the prince to chase after Holden, she volunteers. Before leaving, she removes Ren from her storage locker and stores him in her tool chest. On the prince, she recognizes Anna's new friend Tilly, who used to babysit her. The inside of the ring is 1 million kilometers across, bounded by 1,373 wormholes spaced into a sphere. The only open ring is the one to Earth's system, Sol. In the center is the ring station, a metal sphere 5 kilometers across. Orbiting it are the Iquay and the probes that have been sent through. In the slow zone, as it was nicknamed, nothing can go faster than 600 miles per second. Or meters per second. Is it meters per second?
As opposed to...
I think it's meters because they're talking about kilometers.
Yeah, no, it's meters per second.
Okay. For everybody listening right now, I said miles per second earlier, and it is meters per second. I'm leaving that in.
Do it.
Sorry to break the fourth wall, everybody. Amos finds the transmitter that was hacking their system, and one of the documentary crew admits he got paid to plant it. His glasses have a sonar optic system that he uses to create a 3D model of the woman who paid him. Holden believes this is Julie Mao. Naomi puts out a broadcast saying the previous message was a fake. The other ships demand to see Holden, but he's EVA en route to the sphere. Bull tells Naomi that Ashford wants to send in an attack squad and that he'll take the civilians off their hands. The sphere's iris is open, and it lets Holden enter. Inside, Miller explains that he's not actually there in person. He is the machine for finding lost things and can interface with the sphere's systems. Martian Marines in exosuits catch up with Holden. An insect-like alien defense robot attempts to stop them, but they destroy it with a grenade. This teaches the station that even things moving as fast as a baseball pitch are dangerous, and the slow zone slows down even more, causing massive casualties on all the ships. More alien defensive mechanisms activate and begin ripping the Marines to pieces, so they fall back. Melba uses the deceleration catastrophe to steal a mech suit and EVA to the Rossi. She breaks in and attacks Naomi in engineering. Just as Melba is about to break Naomi's neck, Anna appears and tases her. Anna had recognized Melba in Naomi's broadcast as the girl who lashed out at her and pieced things together when Tilly told her that the image was of Claire Mao. Anna, high on amphetamines due to having been injured during deceleration, stole a taser and an EVA suit and followed Melba. After a quick skirmish, Anna sedates Melba and tapes her to a chair. Miller takes Holden to the central core of the ring station. When Holden touches the core, his consciousness ascends and he learns about the creators, who were a galaxy-spanning hive consciousness. He can sense entire star systems with this mind. He realizes the creators were sending fire through the rings and destroying entire star systems to try and quarantine something from coming through. The station has been waiting 2 billion years for a sign to reopen the wormhole network. Miller says the station is in war mode. Martian soldiers appear once more and take Holden away. Bull wakes up in the medical bay, paralyzed from the waist down. His doctor insists on putting him in a medical coma, but Bull has too much work to do. The injured people on all the ships won't heal properly in 0G, so he wants to spin up the behemoth's drum to create gravity again. Sam has to remove the railgun and torpedo tubes first, and when Ashford finds out Bull has orchestrated this, he orders Bull into the coma. Pa and Bull then relieve Ashford of duty, making Pa the captain. Bull then contacts the Rossi, and Anna tells him she thinks Melba blew up the Suang Un and that they need help. Holden is taken to the MCRN Hammurabi, where he explains everything that has happened so far. He's put into a holding cell, and Miller appears and tells him they all need to shut down their ship's power so he can unspring the lockdown. This will probably open up all the rings, which could be very bad, but Miller needs to know what happened. Melba is locked up on the behemoth, in a cell adjacent to Ashford's own. Ashford promises her amnesty if she can help get him out, but she ignores him. She won't respond to Bull, so he sends in Tilly. She confesses that she did it all because Holden hurt Daddy. Anna and the Rossi crew are taken to the behemoth. Tilly asks Anna to speak with Claire. She again confesses everything, but Anna wants to redeem her. Claire says there's no justice in that and doesn't want forgiveness for the terrible things she's done. Bull gets a call from Captain Jakande on the Hammurabi. She won't come to the behemoth or give up Holden because the MCRN won't let her surrender. Sam gifts Bull a modified mech suit that lets him walk, and he's deeply touched. Bull asks her to turn the comm laser into a weapon so he can give the Martians a reason to surrender. They surrender willingly and send Holden to the behemoth. When Holden arrives, he tells Pa everything, including how to shut off the proto-molecule's hold on them. He heads to the medical bay to check on his crew, and he's accosted by Anna. She tells him about Claire, then takes him to see his crew, who are all grateful to her for saving their lives. Anna asks them to forgive Clarissa, and Holden reluctantly agrees when Naomi says she forgives her. Clarissa regains consciousness and is taken to hating herself instead of Holden. She eavesdrops on Ashford's visitors and realizes they're planning a coup. Hector Cortez, who used to golf with her father, asks her to join the coup. He feels responsible for many of the deaths, since he was the one who petitioned to come into the ring. He's joined with Ashford so they can use the comm laser to destroy the gate, locking themselves inside in order to stop others from following them. He wants Claire to use her abilities to keep Ashford alive. Deciding that all the deaths will be given meaning this way, she agrees. Bull gets a call warning that Ashford's people are taking over. He warns Pa, then calls Sam. She tells him Ashford's guys took engineering and asked her to overclock the laser so they can destroy the ring. Sam explains that using the laser will melt that entire side of the ship. Holden tells her if they attack, the ring station might destroy the entire solar system. Bull rounds up his people, and they set up a base in the admin offices where Radio Free Slow Zone has been broadcasting from. Bull has the journalist Monica and preacher Anna do a broadcast explaining the situation and asking all ships to shut down their reactors so the station will let the ships go. Sam continues to sabotage the laser. Ashford calls her to the bridge, and when another engineer disagrees with how long the repairs should take, he shoots Sam. With Sam dead, Naomi is tasked with shutting down the reactor and gassing the bridge. Holden will take the bridge once they're all unconscious, Amos will stay and guard Anna, and Alex will head back to the Rossi to secure it. Bull's team retakes engineering. Naomi tries to gas the bridge, but Clarissa disables remote access to it. Ashford sends out a team of 4 soldiers equipped with confiscated Martian power armor. He shuts down the rotating drum section of the behemoth, leading to another catastrophic inertia change and injuring even more people. Then sends the armored soldiers straight through to engineering. Bull and Naomi are forced to retreat from engineering when the 4 power-suited soldiers arrive. Naomi managed to dump the core, but not the grid. Thus, Ashford can still fire the laser. They escape out an airlock and into an elevator shaft in vacuum. Bull stays behind to cover them. He throws his 2 remaining grenades at the pursuing mech warriors, killing one of them and sacrificing himself. In the offices, Amos manages to repel the attack, but his team suffers massive casualties. Anna broadcasts that they're losing the fight and that they need to stop Ashford or Earth will be destroyed. Clarissa calls and says she could open the bridge doors for Holden, but wants Anna to convince her. Anna says to have faith in the people who chose to forgive her in spite of the pain she's caused them, and to stop siding with Ashford, who kills innocents out of convenience. Clarissa opens the doors. Naomi rigs the backup elevator to engage, squashing the 2 remaining Marines in mech armor like bugs. The hatch opens and fire is exchanged from both sides. Ashford tries to shoot Claire, but Claire dropkicks him, then re-rigs the bridge access controls, allowing the grid to be taken offline. The ship shuts down, and the lights go out. Holden suddenly finds himself on an alien planet with Proto Miller. With all the ships powered down, Miller managed to shut down the station's defenses, which freed the ships and opened all the rings. No malevolent force appears and kills them, but Miller warns that they could still be out there. Even though his creators are gone, Miller can't stop searching for them and tells Holden he needs a ride. Anna insists that Clarissa get a fair trial on Luna and asks Holden to transport her there. When he refuses, she offers to buy the Rossi from Mars and give it to him if he'll agree. She calls up Tilly and asks her to foot the bill, which she will. Aboard the Rossi, Claire helps Amos fix all the damage she caused and finds she really enjoys the crew's company. Whew, I tried to make that recap fairly short, but I needed to keep everything in there. It was so...
You had an impossible task.
There were so many things in there.
And you can't just miss any of them because they're very, very important. Everyone is so pivotal to the story. when you hear me say, you lovely listeners, the shaking of the snow globe, this book, or at least the second 60% of it, the last 60% of it, is the perfect example of just a rattling of that. I mean, the first two books we're kind of all over the place. We get to see the solar system, we're flying around. This book, they did such a brilliant thing, I think, in that they just contained it to one
Yeah,
location.
that was really
All of
cool.
it. Yeah.
And that location was a different dimension or something. What was that? Okay, so let's talk about this because it's the main part of the book. It's the ring system. I was not expecting them to go through the ring. And it's not that I thought they're not going to. I just wasn't really it just didn't seem like an option to me. Like it seemed like too foreign of an object for anybody to even be considering going through this. And from basically when the swing un blows up, from there until the end of this book is absolute chaos. Like right when Holden goes into the ring was where I was not gonna. I had committed to finishing this book. You know what I mean? Because
Right
I was
then.
like, what is on the other side of this thing? And then we kind of find out, and then everything else, everywhere else, just goes to absolute hell. And I wanted to pick your brain and ask you, like, let's just get to the meat of what this really is, or at least try to discuss what we think this is. What is up with Holden's vision that he had? What is up with the creators? What is up with all these other star systems that are being destroyed? What is this thing that they're trying to keep out of the rings? What is going on? What do you think this is?
I'm gonna circle your question before I answer it because I really love how they answer mysteries. I didn't think that we were going to get this level of engagement with the proto molecule actually going through a portal someplace else until like the last book.
Oh, really? I figured it would be like halfway through the series, but not the third book. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. I mean, I'm just so, it's like a breath of fresh air, you know?
Yeah,
So,
it's like, where could this go? Like, what's happening here?
yeah. Okay. The whole Miller thing, like once they get to, well, what do we want to call? They don't really refer to anything. The slow zone is the thing right around the command module dome metallic thing inside the thing, but the portal space.
Well, there's like the ring station in the middle, and then the
Right.
slow zone is the space between the structure of 1,373 rings in a sphere around the ring station in the middle. So then I guess the slow zone would be all the space in between that.
Okay,
So I don't
so
know.
the
I don't know
slow
what
zone.
I don't know what the whole thing is called.
We'll just call it all the slow zone
I guess.
for the sake of it being easy here.
Sure.
But I get the interaction between Miller and Holden once he goes into the slow zone, but I didn't really understand the visions that Holden kept having and what Miller was trying. Did Miller want him to come? And that was his thing, was like he needed, oh, I think I just answered my own question as I remembered this here. He needed Holden to activate it and put his physical, because he exists in the physical realm, so he needed to touch that ball thing inside there and give him access, I guess. Was that his whole purpose?
The way that I look at it, and this could be super wrong, but I look at it as like Miller is not actually. It's like, did you see that movie Contact with Jodie Foster?
No,
Okay.
I don't think I did.
It's like, I'm assuming the form that you'll be most comfortable speaking with.
Oh,
You know what
sure.
I mean? It's
Okay,
like,
yeah.
I think that Miller is kind of Miller in the sense that I think that there's kind of a nod to the people that the proto molecule has killed aren't necessarily like 100% dead. You know what I mean? Like their memories are still like somewhere in the ether or something. But anyway, Miller is like Holden's. It's like Holden's projection of Miller, and then this alien program that is like allowing Holden to see this projection of Miller, which is also like a projection of Holden in a sense, if you like think about it. And then
Right. It's like
and then,
they're using him as an intermediary to like speak in his language, sort of.
I think that they needed Holden to touch this sort of I'm going to call it a conduit because it's so similar. Did you play Mass Effect?
A little bit, tiny bit.
Okay.
I've watched it played more than I played it.
For you and our listeners and Mass Effect fans, you can send me an email if I get any of this wrong. But this reminded me a lot of Mass Effect, at least the first game. It gets a little different as the games go on. But the main storyline of Mass Effect, at least the first game, is that Captain Shepard touches or kind of like mind melds with this thing called the conduit, which shows him a sort of vision that ends up being this super powerful alien race of synthetic organic hybrid ships called the
That's like
Reapers,
exactly
which
what this is.
waits around for civilization to advance before eradicating them around every like 50,000 year, like 50,000 year cycles. And so this is obviously a lot different in a lot of ways, but
But
also
very
that's
similar in a
really
lot of ways.
I was reading along and I was like, wow, James S.A. Corey, that is pretty similar to a game that came out like 15 years ago. But well, I guess this was written in like 2013 or something, so it was
Well,
still
not
like 6 years. But anyway, it was very similar, and I don't know like why Holden. Maybe because Holden, for very much the same reason why Holden seems to be picked for quite a few different jobs, is he's kind of like the middle way in all of this, it seems like.
he could be convinced. He's also mobile, right? Just like the logistics of there's not many people who have the power to just get to the ring on their own volition, without having to go through any sort of political or government structure. What I don't get
Why
is
would the
why
alien
Miller.
know that?
Well,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
don't know.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, what I don't get was why Miller, when he showed up to Holden, kept muttering all these crazy things and wouldn't just be like, I need you to come to the ring to help me interact with it. And like with one sentence, as opposed to like all this like muttering insane garbage.
So I have a
And
couple of theories on this. Sorry, I know you're good.
yeah, well, he kind of like says it by saying like, well, it's really hard to do what I'm doing and create this image of me in your brain. It's like pulling a million strings or like playing like a million keyed piano perfectly so you can see me, and it's very difficult to do this properly. But it was like, just say a sentence, like, I don't know,
Well,
it
I mean,
seemed.
because okay, so the way that I look at it, and I think it's kind of mentioned in the book to a certain extent, is like this being presence, projection of Holden's mind onto this being or presence or whatever this is. It doesn't know exactly how to do it yet. Like the human brain is so complicated. I think I can't remember. There's like a paragraph where it's like an aside that Miller takes, and he's just like, "Do you have any idea like how complicated the human brain is? Like it's
Totally.
really difficult for me." Or me as like this basically like alien software to like hack into your brain and do it correctly. It's like it's taken me a while. I've been trying this whole time, and I think also my theory, at least, and I don't know if the text like super backs this up, but I think Holden has been so traumatized over the last couple books that it's making it even harder. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Holden has a lot of very new pathways being carved into his brain. He's
Yes.
if you want to think about it that way, like Holden has a huge like heap of different thoughts than normal. He was just working on an ice hauler for a while. He's just like this blue collar guy, just kind of like banging the girls he works with for like 5 years. It's just not a whole lot to Holden
Right.
for
His
like a
brain
while.
explorers are just
Yeah,
hacking their way through the
he
jungle,
has
all sorts
grown
of
quite a
places.
bit as a person. So that's like my theory behind it, of why it was so cryptic and weird and difficult. Obviously, for like expediency's sake, probably would have been really nice if like Alien Miller was just like, okay, so the ring, totally fine if you go through it. Just go through it at 600 meters per second. You'll be totally good. You know what I mean?
I
Just
kind of patched up to like distance, and maybe it was difficult to get the information out of the ring because like it seemed like once he went into the slow zone through the portal that like Miller became much more cogent, which was maybe him just finally figuring it out. But I don't know. It did seem like he spent, he was like, it's so complicated to create not only my image, but your sense of my image and your memories and all these things
and
around it.
something
And it
that
was
would make
like,
sense.
yeah, but it did seem like, well, maybe stop focusing on how your breath smells and your hat looks and just like talk in his like if put a sentence together, man.
What's funny about these books is especially with this one, like when Holden gets through the gate and he's in the ring station in the middle there, so much new information is being given to the reader, and you're in such a new place that like I do this sometimes with other books too, where I get to like kind of like this zenith of where I want to be in the book, and everything's just happened. It's just like everything's happened at the same time. So many things are happening, and I kind of like glance over stuff sometimes because I just want to know what's going on.
Right.
So I think that sometimes it's awesome. It's a very exciting feeling, but I have to remember to kind of like slow down and really make sense of kind of those smaller details sometimes.
Especially
Because
with a technologically advanced sci-fi like this.
I know it's just like, it's like, did you guys have to put the explanation for all of this? Like, in literally the most exciting part of the book when we go
Right.
through an alien artifact and we're in an alien space station and Holden touches this thing and transcends into this god perspective
Which
and
I
then
loved.
Miller's just like, do you know how complicated your brain is? And I'm like, I don't want to know about any of that. Like,
Shut up, Miller.
but it is really important, and that is my theory behind it. But what do you think is up? Like, what do you think is this thing that they're trying to keep out of the rings? What are your thoughts on that? We're probably
Well,
wrong.
probably so wrong. Okay, so it seems to me that at some point, perhaps billions of years in the galaxy's history, there was a civilization that became so advanced, so powerful. They were the ones who made the protomolecule, and they had, I don't want to use taken over because that sounds militaristic, but they had settled thousands of different stars, and their reach and power was beyond anything we could even imagine at our stage of advancement. And something came along, just like you were kind of saying in Mass Effect, that waits until a
like
civilization, yeah, is advanced enough, and then gobbles nom 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 nom, just goes to town eating their stars up. And then this thing, this collective multi-solar star system consciousness, realized that it was being eaten alive, and then quarantined the certain parts of it that hadn't been affected yet by this eating monster, which included Earth, I guess, and kind of and used the ring station as a way to control access.
One of the main things that I feel like Anna's job in this was perspective, right? We needed a perspective shift, right? And I think it's Anna who thinks, all of this is a matter of perspective. Like, we think that this is a weapon because of the way that it, maybe it was Bull. I can't remember exactly who said it, but somebody said,
I think it's Anna.
Okay, well, somebody said, we thought this was a weapon because of what it did, but it might not have been intended as one, right? And I think that's a really big part. I think that's a big part of the last 3 books that we've read is perspective. It's a really important thing to keep in mind when you're reading these books with so many different players on the board.
I think her exact sentence is, we touch a stove and get burnt, and then we destroy the stove thinking that it's attacking us. We're just not understanding it.
So my question is, like, do you think that the protomolecule, how do I put this? And we're so early on in this series, so people that have read the entire thing, just humor us. Chad and I are in full nerd mode right now.
Absolutely.
But I think that the protomolecule was sent in order for us to be able to set this ring up so that we could be the new custodians of this quarantine system.
Like a Hail Mary to future
maybe
things.
Or like something where it was like, okay, so the human race in its state at any point maybe might not be ready to handle this. We're going to need to set this up ourselves. One of the only ways that we're going to really be able to set it up is if we use this molecule that kind of like, for lack of a better word, sacrifices a certain amount of the population to be able to create this artifact out of some sort of sentience. Or I have maybe I'm like way off into the space on this, but I think that my kind of half-cocked theory here, mixed with what Anna said about the stove and just about taking things not necessarily as they are at face value to us as like evolved primates who think everything is just trying to murder us all the time. And it's like, no, the universe is this vast, gigantic, ridiculous, complicated thing. And, there are these kind of like maybe neutral partied or unsympathetic or much higher ordered civilizations that would maybe need to send some kind of misunderstood particle somewhere for a larger purpose, so that's how I was thinking about all this, at least.
I totally agree with you, and it's in fact almost the opposite. It is the opposite of a weapon, because this star system wide consciousness realized it was going down, and so it threw a little ball of hope into an area of the galaxy that it saw potential could develop something that may one day become advanced enough to access this. And basically it threw the keys to the kingdom at us. It was like, here, when you can use it, have this, and this will give you access to the rest of the solar system, and maybe you can do what we couldn't, and fix this problem if it's still even going on, which there's a big question mark there. Talk to me about what you think is this solar system gobbling
Oh, I
nom
have
nom
no idea.
monster
I think
still
that
existing.
so I have two different thoughts on this. I will kind of like I will say as an addendum to what we just said. Obviously, we might be eating our words there, but even if we are, that was a cool idea that we had. And if that's
Yeah.
not a thing, we could turn that into a book. Anyways, um, I think that this kind of like this galaxy gobbling thing, this system gobbling thing. So I have a couple thoughts on this. One, I think that could be what the Expanse is, um, or the Expanse is just a term for how the playing field we're on in these
Right,
books,
right.
right? Obviously, um,
Humans' tendency to
everything, yeah.
adventure.
But also, I mean, I think it could be something like the Flood in Halo, where you've got this kind of like hive mind. Which I guess the other civilization was a hive mind too, but kind of like another hive mind type thing.
Right. The one who made the
Um,
protomolecule was the hive mind.
right, but it could be another one, or it could be some kind of virus, or it could be. I don't see it necessarily as like a malevolent alien force of like kind of like individuals or something. I don't necessarily see that. If it is, that'd be really cool and interesting. But I think that a civilization that is as galaxy spanning or as system spanning as this other one, the creators. I don't know if they'd have as much trouble with like just like a race of sentient beings. There'd have to be like something more to that, I feel like, for it to be that
Right.
big of a threat. But I don't know. Like I said, the universe is huge. I don't know all the possibilities that different
Right.
races might have. Who knows?
And Holden kept, or excuse me, Miller kept mentioning, because he kept trying to put things into perspective that Holden could understand. And he was like, well, you exist in the physical realm, and in some places, some areas of the galaxy, that's actually a big deal. And so it's like maybe this consciousness existed without a body, or it grew past it and somehow combined itself. I don't know, but it was very interesting that he kept trying to. It was kind of like how someone who lived in like 4 dimensions were to try to explain that fourth dimension to someone who lived in 3. It's like we just can't. Our perspective does not allow for it, you know?
I know, and that's why it's frustrating sometimes because I think I've had fourth dimension or fifth dimension explained to me like 1,000 times, and I still don't understand it.
Still
You know,
like,
I think I understand it, but it's just. Have you ever read Flatland?
no.
It's a little tiny book about a two-dimensional like character being like kind of like encountering a three-dimensional world. It's like a really old book. You should check it out. It's really cool.
Okay.
It's a little side note there.
Okay.
I have another little notice here that I wanted to go over with you, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
So if you think about it, if not for Melba and her machinations,
Your insanity.
we could be looking at a completely different story here. Like, think about it. If Melba hadn't put that bomb on the Suang Un and blown it up, and then done that kind of like false announcement that says where Holden says all that stuff, then the behemoth would have never fired on Holden to make it look like the OPA was not tied to him. Then Holden would have
Forcing
never
him,
had to go through the
right.
ring, which made everybody else go through the ring, which eventually made it so that these other rings opened up as a result. So if you think about it, Melba is directly responsible for all of this. And I think I want to talk a little bit more about Melba because I really liked this whole arc that she had. It was convincing. It was cool. It was realistic. She is responsible for all the deaths on the ship, the Suang Un. She is responsible for all the people that died in the deceleration incident. Both of them,
Both of them, yeah.
And so she finally at this point where she's locked up, she is just like
marinating in blood.
and guilt, like
And
real visceral guilt. Do you think it was fair for Anna to ask Holden to forgive Melba?
I'm glad that you asked me that because, and again, I'm going to circle your question before I answer it. The scene where she's doing that and everyone basically is like, yep, we will. And then Holden's like, I won't. Are you kidding me? And he kind of throws a little hissy fit and he's playing back to book Holden's. And then all of a sudden, Alex makes some comment. He's like, yeah, well, Holden can't do it because his girlfriend almost got. He makes a little slide thing. He's like, he wasn't even in danger. It's
That
like,
was
you were
so
the least
funny.
of us, man, who should be holding the grudge right now. You were fine. And he was like,
I
kind of
forgot
stopped.
about that.
Yeah, and he
That's
was just
so
like,
good.
okay, maybe I'm just a huge asshole. And I was like, yes, Holden, yes, that's what I needed from you. That was like a turning point that shows like finally we're getting some self-awareness, some growth, something other than this Cub Scout, my way is the righteous highway or nothing instinct that he has. And I loved that whole thing.
What Melba did was really messed up. Obviously, I would even say like if Melba's dad hadn't been partly responsible for the death of 1.5 million people and had just been if her dad had been some random guy killed because of Holden's carelessness, it would have been maybe more forgivable. But I'm not sure either. You know, I mean, it's a weird thing because what she did to Holden, like in a vacuum, was really messed up. But there's really nothing for Holden to gain by killing her other than
No,
revenge.
she did him a service by almost forcing him to forgive her. It's like you have so many other things in your plate right now. You don't need to worry about this revenge and this hate. It's not going to bring about anything good. And
And
I think
Holden would probably do the same thing, honestly. If you look at
yeah,
like his righteousness, you know, I mean, like, I don't know if he would kill people to do it, but I wouldn't put it past Holden to like try to humiliate somebody. You know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right.
it wouldn't be as ruthless, but it would still be the same like intention and spitefulness. I feel like, you
Right.
know.
And Anna, it was a big deal to her as well because her whole world is kind of being shooken by the possible presence or definite presence of alien life. And what does that mean for her religion? And she needed something to return to that was foundational, which is forgiveness and redemption. Can someone be redeemed? And like, I think that was really big for her. And she probably would have, just like Holden, done the same thing even without Tilly asking her to do that.
Yeah, Anna was a really interesting character. Like her chapters were like they weren't boring. They were definitely interesting in a certain um like seeing things from a different perspective, seeing things from a religious perspective, especially considering, the presence of alien intelligence would really rub up against a lot of religion very roughly, to say the least. Like that would be very difficult, I feel like, for deeply religious organizations and individuals to kind of like square with that, depending on what the situation was. Like, I mean, if a bunch of aliens came to Earth right now and the Pope was like, hey, Jesus, and they were like, who?
Right.
It would be weird. It'd be like a rough thing, and it
They're
wouldn't
like,
like
we were told we were made in the image of our God. Like, no, we were
yeah.
made in the image of
I
our
know it'd be like a whole
God.
mess. Or they'd be like, "Oh, are you guys still doing that?" And we'd be like, "Yeah, it's awesome," And but or on the other hand, what I think about sometimes is, what if aliens came here and we were like, Jesus, and they were like, "Yeah."
Yeah. He
Would
lived
that
for
be?
like 3,000 years, taught us all these things. We're like, oh no, we killed him at 30. Like, what? You killed him at 30?
But yeah, I mean, it's just the implications that would have, not only on just secular society, which would be just legion. It would change everything,
Ooh, good
obviously.
word.
But thank you.
The
But
Legion.
but it's so cool to see from Anna's perspective, like her kind of dealing with all of this and dealing with it in a way that's not like this. She's not clinging to her faith. She's almost saying like, okay, this is a reality, and I'm going to try and approach this in a way where I'm still loving and I'm still faithful and I'm still trying to have a confidence in my species, in my fellow humans, while we all go through this. And I'm going to tell other people to do that too. And I thought, I don't know, I just thought that James Corey, just taking that perspective, I thought was like a little weird at first, and then now in retrospect was such a good idea.
I agree. We definitely needed that look, because everyone here is so militaristic, which is a question that I kind of have for you is why were all the priests and different religious representatives sent to the gate in the first place? Like, whose idea was that? It seems like we've got soldiers, some politicians, and then the religious folk. It's like maybe scientists who are given zero
Oh, there's a
mention,
bunch of scientists too. So it's basically like a caravan.
a delegation,
Yeah, a delegation, a caravan, something like that, where they're sending
pilgrimage.
scientists. A pilgrimage. That's what it was.
Yeah, I knew
But
it.
I mean, you've got scientists, you've got people of faith, you've got all kinds of, military groups, political groups, all these people that are going out toward the ring. Um, to study it to an extent, but also because someone flew through it. So this might be a new development. We want people around. I think that this guy Cortez is very close to the Secretary General, sending out this kind of like delegation of kind of like religious people to kind of like, I don't know, lubricate things, I guess, just kind of like be a part of the whole process. I did think, like, reading it initially, like, why are so many people going out to this like clearly dangerous thing? I mean,
Right.
you would just have to err on the side of this thing being really dangerous. But then I thought, like, okay, well, I mean, if it's really dangerous, then nobody's safe anywhere. So
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. They're like, we need every point of view, every representative here. It just seemed, and maybe it was just because the book focused so much on the religious groups that I was just kind of arching an eye. But I think it was really just excluding the others, and in my brain meant that they weren't there, but really they were.
well, I mean, Fred even explains, I think it's Fred, explains that these other factions are going, so the OPA needs to go too. So it's like if one goes, then everybody's got to go, kind of
Sure.
thing.
Okay, that makes a lot
so
of
it's
sense.
like, yeah, I mean, if maybe on the off chance that like this ring just starts like puking up gold or something, you know what I mean? Like, or is it whatever, you know what I mean? It's like
Advanced technology.
yeah, it's just iPads for everybody.
iPads.
But sending all those people out, at first I was just like, I don't know about this, but it made sense as more conversations kept happening. I have another question for you.
Yes.
Or while we're jumping around on different questions. So to kind of recap, just on top of my recap, there is a coup and then a counter coup in this story, and that is the apex, that is the climax of this story. And it is ridiculous. Like, I was like, when is this going to wrap up? Because this has just been like one like, what else could possibly go wrong in this situation? Like, they're all together on this ship, everything is breaking down, there's a laser they're trying to fire. If the laser fires, it's going to melt off the entire side of the ship. If it hits something, then they're going to destroy the whole solar system. There's all these mech suits everywhere and bullets everywhere and fire.
There's so many points, like, it can't get worse, and then it does.
Exactly. So I wanted to ask you, though, do you think that Captain Ashford, and his, I guess, assistant in all of this, Cortez, do you think they could be considered villains? Like, if you think about their intentions here, like, what do you think about this?
They were the villains of this book, and I think for just as like they were the obvious people that our protagonists were fighting against and were in opposition to them. But I also think that they're villains because their motivations were not what they said, which was to protect all of Earth. We are sacrificing ourselves. It was their own pride.
I think Cortez thought that. I could be wrong about
He's
that.
such a slippery fish. I never really quite had him nailed down.
I thought they wrote him in a really interesting way where, like, he never quite got, in my opinion, like, past the line of like unbelievable religious zealot or like corrupt religious politician or something. He very closely edged to it, but there was always something about him where like Anna was fairly comfortable around him. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It wasn't
like
quite
he was a greasy
that,
politician,
but it wasn't that bad though. You know what I mean? He was like Ron Wyden, like he was just like, hey, like, and if you don't know who Ron Wyden is, he's an Oregon senator, and I think he's pretty all right. Like, I'd get a beer with him, but also I don't trust you, Ron Wyden.
Right.
but also, I mean, like, I felt like Cortez at least saw the logic in it, and there was a part of him that was like, so many people have already died, I'm going to do anything I can. I don't understand this situation. The only thing I understand is that this is obviously dangerous, and I want to close out this ring just in case. And so that's kind of what I felt like his thought process was, but he was being taken advantage of by Ashford, who, in my opinion, was just losing it. Like, I don't really know how else to explain it. Like,
I'm not so easy on Cortez. I think that while everything you said is correct, I think his motivations were fueled by, I'm losing power, and he's a power fiend, and he's not in the central spotlight anymore. And so he's like, how can I regain that? And then I think that he kind of has this growing sense of everyone here is probably going to die, and so I might as well go down in like the most glorious, legendary, altruistic way that'll just make my sacrifice echo on through the chambers of history of me, just this awesome martyr. I don't know, maybe he was confused or he was really troubled.
See, it's a problem of information. We're having, as Robert Plant would say, a communication breakdown. Because I feel like, in a really tense situation like this, I feel like you could really try your very best to spell things out for people and be like, look, if we do it like you want to do it, the entire solar system is going to get destroyed. And for people in a very high stress situation, when they've already kind of got their own biases and things like that, they're not going to listen to you. Like it's just
Right.
like Ashford had already been mutinied against. He seems racist. I'm just throwing that out there. Like he seems
Super
like not a very cool guy. And then so
Well,
I feel like
pride was his motivation.
yeah, I feel like Ashford at least was. I think Ashford aligns with what you're kind of aligning Cortez with, in the sense that he kind of saw this as like, everyone's going to die anyway, so I'm just going to like get mine and stay in power as long as I can, which doesn't really make sense to me, but I've also never been in that situation. So
he didn't seem like he seemed too selfish to sacrifice himself. That's what, like, I got it from Cortez's side, but it seemed strange to me that Ashford was so quick to jump aboard his bandwagon, and that, yes, we're going to shoot this thing and close down. At least we'll close down the gates. We're all going to die. He didn't seem like the self-sacrificing type to me.
But he did, though.
I know, but
yeah,
it just never seemed that way. The people who are very prideful in those leadership roles, they never actually want to do the leadership work. Which,
but
if he was right,
he committed to it.
He did. He really did. So I guess kudos to him for really committing to that. Though he took it to such an extent, like when he stopped the drum.
Yeah.
All these thousands of people are injured in this basically like kilometer wide ring of sick bay. And it's spinning, and he stops it. So for a third time, they go from movement to not, and everything just goes, oh man.
Yeah.
And then he shot Sam. I was like, this guy he is committed so hard.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I didn't put together that Sam was Sam from Tycho Station, who was friends with Naomi, till wait. I don't know why I didn't put that together. It's so silly of me, because like she's described the exact same and everything.
It was until her and Naomi started interacting, and then I was like, oh right,
yeah, Sam. Were you expecting Ashford to just put a bullet in her head? Just
nope.
Man, that was brutal. That sucked.
Yeah,
I was legitimately upset, because I really liked Sam a lot.
Yeah, she's one of those characters that we don't get to be with very much, but we see her through the eyes of the characters that we are with so much, that we love. We have like their love for her, and it was just a rough loss. It was probably the hardest loss. Definitely the hardest loss.
Oh, this book, absolutely. Because the only other loss that was really significant, in my opinion, was Bull, who I had mixed feelings on Bull. Like, I really liked him. I thought, at the top of the episode, I was like, I really love all these characters, and the reason that I love all these characters is because you can't lift anybody out. Like they're so important. I liked Bull. I liked the Bull chapters, I think, more than I liked Bull as a character, I guess.
Same. That's a good way of saying it.
I don't know. He was cool. Like that scene where he just tosses that guy out an airlock.
Oh my gosh.
That was pretty ridiculous.
What did you think about that? That was a little like extreme, right?
I mean, I think
an example.
I think it was like to make an example. But the example was that he's like on Team Belter. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He's not doing like Earth stuff. He's like,
okay.
At least that's how I looked at it. Because, and I think that obviously also he didn't want people showing up stoned to work when they're working on the ship. And this ship is like, basically falling apart. Like you can't have
someone
a bunch
just
of
got injured.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's why he did it. I feel like it was pretty extreme. But it was a cool scene. But yeah, it was like, geez, dude, that's a lot.
Wow. Okay, so far in this series, every book we have an introduction of new characters, which I really love. It always gives each book its own different feel, some new perspectives. Though it does sadden my heart a little bit that we don't seem to get any continuance of some of these characters, such as Bobby or Avasarala. Such as Bobby or Avasarala.
Avasarala.
Such as Bobby or Avasarala. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, like, I'm not trying to spoil anything. I'm already I'm 200 pages into Cibola Burn.
Oh, you got out the chopsticks and got down with the noodles.
Oh my god, I love it. I love these books. They're so good. I'm also reading the novellas and short stories and stuff, and I've got my pedal to the Expanse metal here. and I'm really enjoying it. But in Cibola Burn, it's I'm not trying to spoil anything, but there are characters that have been mentioned previously
They
that didn't
float
have
back.
they didn't have POVs, but
Oh,
now they do, which is
interesting.
really cool. And then there has been a little bit of recurrence. And even in this book, I mean, like Eva Sarala and Bobby are mentioned kind of in passing.
Right.
So I was worried. I kind of see what you're saying though, because like I was worried going through these first few books that like this was gonna feel very kind of um like an archipelago of different stories that never really
Right.
felt, you know what I mean? Like I didn't really want that, but it seems like no, this is a 9 book series, so just chill, cool your jets a little bit. It's gonna be an ensemble thing
There's
with
a lot
Holden
of
and crew
story
at the
here.
center. Yeah, there's a lot of story here, and we don't. If someone's not dead, you might be seeing them again. You know, so if not in POV form, then at least in mentioning and having them still be, because Eva Sarala is, aside from her title, basically in charge of the UN. You know,
Right.
so obviously we're gonna keep seeing her.
A very important figurehead.
I want like a whole Eva Sarala novella, or just like her drinking tea and yelling at her kids or something.
Right. Just like
like
swearing out like her lessers.
it's like watching Family Feud. I would watch I would read an entire novella about that. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, I think that another reason that I was kind of like, I don't know about this is because you never know. I mean, when you're throwing so many new characters, and it's a new author that you never read, new story that you've never read, you're like, all right. I mean, there's been some good ones, but like, I hope you don't throw me a curveball on someone I think is super boring, and I just don't want to read those chapters. And that really hasn't happened yet. Maybe with the exception of like Prax, I felt like, just like just the character voice, you know what I mean, was like a little bit boring, but not the
Mhm.
actual events. And him being like a botanist was interesting, especially like on Ganymede. Like, you try and make a botanist on Ganymede during a war between Earth and Mars a boring point of view. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's not going, but it's it still
Not
kind
to
of
mention,
was.
he kind of comes prepackaged with the world building that tells us how they're all fed, you know?
Yeah, but like when you stacked Prax up against the crew of the Rocinante, it
Yeah.
was just like, but still important, still there. And I think that, while all of these point of view characters in these first 3 books, at least for me, kind of like vary in degrees of how interested I am when I flip the page and see that it's their name. It's mostly because it's compared to other POVs that I love so much, and at the same time, all of the POVs so far have needed to be here. You know, like Prax needed to be here, Anna needed to be here, Bull needed to be here. Everybody's securely locked in place. It makes sense, you know, and the stuff that's going on around them is usually interesting too. So yeah, that's don't worry, this is gonna be cool. It's gonna be good.
Okay. Okay. Help me understand this. I think I feel like just missed something, or maybe I'm just trying to look for depth where it doesn't exist,
Could
but
happen.
it often does. Miller told Holden, like, look for the corners and the doorways. And then they kept using and referencing this metaphor. And I just didn't like, what? Isn't it like, look where the obvious points of opposition are going to be? Or like, I didn't get it because they kept like a scene would happen and Holden would like munder under his breath, like, look for the corners and the doorways when clearing a room. And it's like, how does that relate? I didn't get it.
Yeah, I wish I had a cool answer for this, but I really don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. I mean, maybe just like look for something that you're not expecting. I don't know. If you're listening right now and you know the answer to this, if you've gone full tilt Expanse and you've dug deep and you know what all this has been referenced
Like,
to, send us an email or hit us up on the Discord. Because yeah, I don't know. I don't
look where
know.
you expect trouble to be. I don't know. I just didn't really get it, but they kept referencing it over, so I kept thinking there was like more depth there, but
I know, and I was
whatever.
kind of looking for that in like the kind of like ultimate battle on the space station, and I feel like Holden like had thought it like once,
Yeah, he mentioned it.
but it wasn't because of that. You know what I
No,
mean? Like it couldn't have been, or if it
it
was,
was in a
like that's
metaphorical sense.
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. I wish
Okay,
I could
so
tell you.
yeah, a very unique thing happened in this book when which almost never happens, I feel like, in any book, when you get like a big bad guy, Melba, Clarissa Mao, attacking the Rocinante. She's inside. She's in her like indestructible mech unit, just ripping the place to pieces, and no one defeats her. Anna is hiding within the storage container with Naomi, and then she just has a stroke and goes down.
Yeah.
What did you think of that decision? I loved it. I thought it was very fresh, but what did you think about it?
I think at that point, I think it made sense. I could see how it could seem maybe a little bit anticlimactic, but I mean, if you look at, so like Melba has had all these like implants done. She's been through in the last 24 hours just like an absolute ridiculous amount of things. I can't remember exactly why did she have a stroke again? Um,
Don't know. I think it was probably just overuse
does she
of
have a
her.
stroke?
Yeah, it's what she. Well, we don't really know. We just hear a slight gurgling from inside the box, and then when Anna peeks out, she's like up against the wall, like shaking. And then I think
Ah,
it's
what was the
mentioned
reason for that?
later. It's mentioned later that someone like is applauding her for saving them, and she was like, "No, I just hid." And then she had a stroke right before she like killed us. It was either a stroke or a heart attack, but it was something like that.
And I
I'm
feel
pretty
like there
sure it
was
was a
like some kind
stroke.
of reason for it, but I'm totally blanking on what it was.
I mean, she did just get tasered and has been jacked up on her like injection juice that she has inside of her, this like
Didn't
extra
something like
organ.
malfunction or something?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I can't remember, but yeah, I don't
It's
know.
specifically mentioned later that she's like, nah, someone just like had a stroke at this time.
What did you think about Tilly?
I liked Tilly a lot.
Yeah, I
She
want to
came
see more
off.
of Tilly. I want a Tilly POV chapter
I
or
wanted Tilly
multiple of
POV
them.
too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, she was so kind of standoffish and like the rich girl, but then she comes around. It's like when everyone goes through such traumatic and horrific events. It's kind of like the great leveler. It's like everyone is seeing each other in this new light. There's all these class structures and systems and hierarchies get broken down of just people trying to survive and seeing people at their best and their worst, covered in blood, fighting for each other or not, running. And I feel like she showed her colors and
yeah,
she rose. A strength came out of her, which was nice because she gave a little bit of fun to the Anna POV.
yeah. I think that was kind of what I was gonna say. Is Anna's interesting as hell. She, cute baby, cute wife,
Right,
cute
right.
situation there.
Yep.
Um,
Hugging
and
her
I,
pillow. This is you guys.
oh, that was so cute. Oh my
I
god, I love
know.
that. But yeah, I felt like Anna was a little bit kind of like like yeah, she's a reverend, totally. And then Tilly kind of came in like a wrecking ball, and it was just a very nice part of those chapters. Yeah, I really liked her a lot.
Absolutely. I got to say, one of my favorite scenes was the high out of her mind Anna jumping from ship to ship in pursuit of Clarissa. Like, she's never done anything like this before. She's high out of her mind from these painkillers that Tilly just jacked her up. She's like, I gotta go do this, and then saves the day. And while some may say that that might like stretch the boundaries of like what you might be able to believe, I thought it worked really well. And just, I was with it. I loved it.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to go back into what we were talking about before about Anna saying, you touch a stove and we think it's a weapon and we destroy the
Right.
stove or whatever. There's a quote here that I found. I was looking for it. It's Holden thinking to himself, and it says, "It killed humans, therefore it was a weapon. But radiation killed humans, and a medical X-ray machine wasn't intended as a
Mm.
weapon." Holden was starting to feel like they were all monkeys playing with a microwave. Push a button, a light comes on inside, so it's a light. Push a different button and stick your hand inside, it burns you. So it's a weapon. Learn to open and close the door. It's a place to hide things. Never grasping what it actually did, and maybe not even having the framework necessary to figure it out. No monkey ever reheated a frozen burrito. Like that's it's so perfect. And I think that quote and that sentiment is about to catapult us into the rest of this series. I think that's like one thing that we really need to hang on to here as the reader and really remember that as we go through these next few books. And I think it serves to kind of like, at least for me, going into a really big series like this where there's a lot of information being poured onto us. I mean, this is a fairly easy series to read. Like as far as like, it's not super complex in a lot of ways, but it's also there's so many different things to remember and so many different like intentions and just little tiny like threads of plot and everything. And I think that as we kind of go forward and things start to kind of thicken up, just like remembering like its perspective, like it could be anything, like keep an open mind about all this stuff, at least for me.
I couldn't agree more. And that was very important in Holden's growth, as this is not only going to be a driving factor for the rest of the series, but already has been a driving factor because it's Holden kind of acknowledging and coming around to the fact that one of the driving factors of this story, or at least all of the bad things, is incomplete information and a lack of understanding and action being taken upon it. The everything, and which is what fueled the battles in the first books, was him releasing this information, whether it be his own lack of understanding or everyone else receiving the information's lack of understanding, caused wars, all these terrible things. And it's like we're so quick to react to things and say, this is that, thus we should respond this way for sure. When it's a light, it's a microwave, we don't even know what it is yet, you know? And so it's like a very nice growth statement of Holden kind of acknowledging, like, okay, we need to stop acting upon information that is so incomplete or that we just have such a little understanding of, and stop making decisions based upon this and going into a battle when the other side's not even here for war.
So there's a quote here that I wanted to ask you about. I still don't know exactly how I feel about it, but I don't know how much you really need to pull out of this, but this is something that that Anna was thinking. And it was, science had given mankind many gifts and she valued it, but the one important thing it had taken away was the value of subjective personal experience. That had been replaced with the idea that only measurable and testable concepts had value, but humans didn't work that way. That was really cool. And I don't even
cool.
necessarily believe that, but I thought that was when I was like, okay, Anna chapters, these are cool. These are really interesting. I like this a lot. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Well, everything's so factual and logical and sciency, and she provides a faith-based motivation for doing things, a reason to do things beyond the self, beyond what we can see and measure. She just added in a perspective that kind of filled out the story and just rounded it out a lot, and made you think. I feel like the authors had some conversations amongst themselves as like what this would mean if that would happen to us, and they were like, this is a really like meaty, fun conversation. How can we find a voice to inject this into this story? And they found it in Anna.
I don't even know if it was necessarily representative of like how we're living right now. I think there is still a subjective experience to be had, even in a secular way, or a religious way, or whatever, a spiritual way, or whatever. But like, do you think that there is a line of technological advancement and expansion where we would really start to lose that to the degree that it was almost unidentifiable? Because I mean, people, I hear people say like, oh, we have cell phones, so we don't even, and it's like, I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't think we like reached a certain kind of like spiritual singularity yet. I think it's possible for sure. And I don't know if that's necessarily exactly what Anna's referencing there, but it just kind of got me thinking about that. I mean, us expanding into the solar system and beyond, it would bring about like such a huge paradigm shift for us. And I think that's another really cool thing that these books cover. And I think that it's succinctly covered in a quote like that. I just wanted to kind of pick your brain about that.
Yeah, I think it was also kind of a statement about, regardless of the facts of the universe and like the literal data points, black, white, definites around us, it's like we don't operate in a world like that. People and humans, we're storytellers. We construct our world from stories, whether or not it's based upon actual information or not. There's always a subjective sense of filtering that we look and experience the world through. And I think she was trying to encapsulate that, like, we aren't creatures of binary one. We're not robots. We are storytellers. We're dreamers.
Gosh, yeah, there's some really profound little snippets, and I thought this is definitely the most profound book so far, because not even just because we threw in a religious element to it, but we've got Melba here, who is so much more a villain. She's got a redemption arc and stuff, but I mean, we have a very different character here in Melba, who is like actively trying to do harm because she's mad. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, oh, I need to save the universe and make a bunch of money doing it or whatever. It's not like corrupt politicians or anything. It's like, no, this is like a very, very ill-intentioned person here. Right. So like that combined with Anna, and then you throw in a redemption arc in there, along with like the ramifications of meeting a new intelligence and everything. And it's like, this book at least made me think more than the two before it. I almost want to agree with you that it's my favorite so far, but it's not. It's not. Yeah,
So good. So
it's still Caliban's war.
Melba is living the story that, I mean, Melba is a story that she created, right? She's literally not that thing, but she's living that. And when it's really interesting after, when she's in the cell and then she gets freed by the counter cours, her brain is clear for the first time in many months, it seems like, when she's in that cell and she's like feeling remorse and the things that an actual not insane sociopath human would be feeling if they did all those things. And then she kind of like remembers her anger and she falls back into this story that she was telling herself. And it was just like a really interesting way to watch her kind of like flip that switch on and off of being like insane, then not. And then she kind of, and ultimately choosing her own path, right? Like she was like, I need to make this choice of like where I'm going here, because I can't just let this hatred and anger be the fuel for everything. Because look at all the damage that I've done. And she deals with it in her own way. But man,
I think if there was one thing about this book that I wasn't super into, and I kind of touched on it, and I'm kind of changing the subject here, but
no, that's fine.
I wanted to talk about something, and this is just a me thing. This is super just a me thing, but I kind of gone over it on the Monday episode. I think there were a lot of ships, and I didn't know where anybody was. Like, I didn't know that Melba had gone over to the Prince and then gone back over to the Sirius, and then
No,
all the
me
ships
neither.
have complicated names and stuff, and it's just like, wait, how did you get over there? Like, where is? Oh, okay, so
Right, you can just get clearance to take the shuttle, I
yeah, and
guess.
then like everyone's back on the Behemoth, and I was like, yeah, okay. Oh wait, so Amos and Alex, oh they got taken. When did they get in? Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Right,
And
and then
then
Alex like leaves to get on the Rocinante at some point during the end sequence. I don't really know when, or how he even gets there.
yeah,
Like I have no idea.
and you know what? I think that is just like a me thing where I don't really know how they would really clean that up. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it maybe, well, maybe, I mean, like maybe they could have cleaned it up and had Melba and company, like Ren and all those other guys, get just be like maintenance workers on the Prince instead of that other ship, and then so they, because they're kind of like going back and forth.
I'll see your nitpick with one of my own. I didn't really like the fact that Clarissa kept referencing the crew that she was with in the previous ship, like, oh, if only Ren could see this, he would love this. And it was like, what? You didn't seem to spend enough time with them to develop feelings that she kept referring to, like thinking, I wonder what they would think if they were here. It's like you kind of actively avoided them when you were on the ship, and now you're like
Well,
bringing them
she had
along.
kind
Maybe
of
that's
talked to. There was a part where she talked to Ren, and she was like, "I'm kind of out of my depth here. I'm like way in over my head." And
that's true.
Ren was like, "But I still agree with you that I think it's supposed to be implied that she had made like more connection than we had seen,
Right, or
almost."
maybe it's part of the story she tells herself.
And there was a part where I was like, "Man, you're like really torn up about killing Ren, but like you like
Right.
hardly knew him." But also, I mean, like she also like killed a guy for it was like a completely innocent person, so you know that's lame, you know, that would
Right.
mess anybody up. So yeah, I was, but there was like a moment where I was just like, man, why is this like
Like,
tearing
why?
you up so much inside? You're like a ruthless killer. But it's every time she had killed before that, she was, it showed her like shaking and vomiting, and you know she's not doing good even when she does kill the guys. I think when she's on Earth, or Luna, or I think she's on Earth.
And she's obviously not operating in the realm of logic here, but her whole hide the body plan seemed ludicrous when you have all of space to hide the body in, but you put him in a footlocker in your room and just cover him with like pressure sealant foam. Like, wow, that seemed the worst spot that you could have hid the
I think
body.
she's just not in a good state, man.
Yeah. Okay. So page 30, there's a quote that I just really loved. It's like awesome foreshadowing, and kind of giving us a taste of Bull's discipline and his ability to just put one foot in front of the other in the face of wild adversity. So it's right after Fred Johnson tells him, you're not going to be the number one on this ship. I'm demoting you because of political ridiculous reasons. And Bull says, well, heck. And then he goes, all the responsibility and none of the power? How can I turn down an offer like that? It's like, and Fred's like, no joking, we're screwing you over. And the reasons are all optics and political BS, but I need you to take it. So I'll take it, Bull said. Then it goes on with this awesome bit of foreshadowing, like perfectly letting us know Bull's like opinion and feelings as to what's to come. Says, for a moment, the only sound was the quiet ticking of the air recycler. Bull turned back to the task of putting his life in a footlocker again. Somewhere far above him, hidden by tons of steel and ceramic, raw stone and vacuum, Behemoth awaited. And it was just like, oh
Yeah.
man, it's like the weight, the fact the ship's called the Behemoth. It's like
Yeah.
he doesn't know what's to come, but that's going to be so weighty, and his part to play is going to be so huge, and yet he has so many walls in front of him. Like it's going to be the hardest possible path to take. And dang straight it is, as he loses his ability to control most of his body right when he needs it the most. Oh my gosh.
And that's what I mean about like these chapters ending so well. Like they know exactly when to end chapters and right where to start them, which I mean, I'm writing quite a bit. You're getting into writing. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten for drafting and for revising and for writing is you need to know when to end your chapters and when to start them. Some chapters end way past when it would be better for them to. Like you've already made your point.
Right.
You're overstaying your welcome, and
You're
then
just
some
milking it or
right.
watering it down
And then
now.
some chapters start way before you need them to. Like you could like don't start with the person walking down the street to the door. Start with them knocking on the door, Like you don't necessarily need all that fluff all the time. And I think that James S. A. Corey has just have you noticed that all the chapters are around the same size?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
It's kind of
interesting.
nice.
Yeah, it's nice, but like they're like all like 6 pages long. Like
Yeah,
pretty much
especially
every
coming
single
off
one.
of Stephen King, who's like one sentence chapter, boom, and then like 20 pages. It's like kind of
You
nice to
never
have a
know.
little bit of consistency there, you know?
All right, so we're gonna start wrapping up here, everybody. And Chad and I have gone on for a little while about this book, and we could honestly just keep going forever. But I want to go read Cibola Burn right now because I'm
Me
all
too.
jazzed up about the Expanse
I'm gonna go
now.
dream about having invincible Martian power armor.
I want to end though with my favorite quote of the entire book from my favorite character in the series so far, which is Amos, because Amos is just my man, my boy. I love Amos so much. But here's the quote: "They're gearing up to go into battle, and Holden says, 'We don't want to get in a gunfight.' And then Amos says, 'Yeah, but if we're in one anyway, it'll be nice to have guns.'"
Yeah.
Amos.
Hey, Moss.
That quote is so perfectly Amos. Just like there is a hierarchy on this ship. Yes, old Holden, I do defer to you, but you're being an idiot right now. Like it's gonna be
Right.
really good to have these when inevitably, like how many firefights have we been in, man? Come on. Like what are you saying?
Are you
we're
kidding
on
me right
we're on a
now?
hostile ship right now. That's so perfect.
Set
Oh my god.
your righteous intentions aside. There's another great Amos quote where he's talking with Anna about whether or not she needs someone taken out. I forget. Oh, I think it's Clarissa. And he's like, well, if you decide to unforgive her, let me know. And I'm the man for the job. Kind of like, I'll forgive her, but I also like
Oh
could
my god.
totally kill her.
I
No
forgot
problem.
about Amos and Anna, like their whole like little their
Oh,
rapport
don't
that they
hit on
have.
her. And he was like, but he even tries to fight it. I'm so interested into what like can we get a more gruesome scene? I didn't think that we could top Arrows, but coming out of the ship that just got stopped after going like 600 meters per second and people bashed,
Yeah.
bloodied, pasta sauce, I think is what one of the Marines so callously puts it.
Gross.
I wonder what grisly scene we have in front of us to top that. Man, I'm
I'm
excited for
sure.
it
I've heard that the
in a
last
gross sort of
half.
way.
I've heard that the last half of Cibola Burn is really, really good. So I'm excited for that. I've heard also that 5 and 6 are kind of like the dip in the
Okay.
series where things start getting a little boring. I've heard so many different things because this
Do you have
series
any
has been around for a while. Go ahead.
do you have any predictions before
Oh
we put the
yeah. Oh yeah. I was
final
kind
lid
of.
on this jar?
I'm just gonna do a quick one.
Okay.
Let's do like a quick one each.
Okay.
But I mean, my prediction. See, so I'm already into Cibola Burn, so I'm gonna try to make like a big prediction. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to
I'll
predict.
try to do one too.
Yeah, because I don't want to spoil anything.
Right.
This isn't a huge prediction, but I think the next few books are going to be a lot of kind of the same, where we're seeing a lot of these factions kind of like duking it out while we're getting a lot of questions answered. Right. And I think that might be the formula for the next few of these. I could be wrong. I would like to be wrong, actually, because I think that would get a little samey after a while. But I think that might be what it is. And then kind of have everything kind of culminate when the factions are a little bit more in line with each other's values and stuff. And we've got more of a unified front for when all those questions that are being answered kind of culminate in the last few books. So that's kind of like what I think is going to happen. But Yeah, I almost can't see it going any other way. I'd love to be surprised. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
I kind of had the same exact thought almost, just a little bit. So like I think that like the previous books, we won't actually ever, maybe at the very end of the story, but I don't think we're ever going to get a alien story. This is never going to become about little green men, but this is always going to be about humans using whatever thing that is in front of them to justify beating the hell out of each other and gain power for themselves. And ultimately, this is a story as to as we expand, inevitably, will we be unified or will we continue squabbling amongst ourselves or will we face the rest of this scary, dark, cold, empty universe together?
Or split up, which would be
right, or split up, right? Which so far that's the colors we've been waving, but we came together on a little bit.
It's happened a little bit, a little microcosm action here, you know?
Yeah, and then bloodbath and then microcosm action.
All right, that's where we're going to leave it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode on Book 3 in the Expanse, Abaddon's Gate. Join us next time for Cibola Burn, Book 4, and we'll probably end up doing another little recap of a novella or a short story or something.
We should.
We're doing it right. We're doing the Expanse right, everybody. We're a little behind schedule on it right now. Chad and I took a week off just to kind of because we're reading the Inheritance books, and I'm almost done with Inheritance, and I'm liking it.
Yeah, and we've got Christopher Paolini coming on, so
Friday,
we really need to just dig into those. We need to be thorough with those guys. So yeah, we wanted to take the time to do this right and give you all the well thought out and just full of just wisdom content that we always do. Yeah, just so great.
Well, everybody, again, thank you so much for being here. Go check out our Patreon. Go check out our Discord. As always, I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and of course, happy reading.
Bye, everybody.